Hello, welcome to the task management flowchart. So this is part of a series where I'm going through all of my life systems. So I just did my money management system, I did my meal planning system, and now this is task management. The next one's gonna be time management. Let me know in the comments if there's any other systems you would like to see as I'm going through all of these life systems. Before we get started, if you did not know, I do sell the Potential Planner and Potential Journal. This is kind of like a yin-yang pair. This is all about like mindset and visualization. I have heard such good feedback. I've heard of people saying, I coach different people, and I've heard of people saying that this like brings them to tears. It completely has changed the course of their days. And then this is more like logistics. This is a goal workbook. What is the mountain that you're climbing? I coach someone who is doing a cross-country biking trip across the United States, and so he's using it for that. And so it's just for like these big things that bring your soul to life. So as we get into task management, my big philosophy is maximize in your life the things that really matter to you and minimize the things that don't matter to you. That's all that time management is, task management is. It's just making sure that you live a fuller life. So when it comes to task management, then the number one philosophy is don't be thinking about it more than once. It comes across your plate, get it off your mind, don't be thinking about it. Use your mind to think about things that you actually care about, not little chores, not little tasks. So we're trying to make this as minimum as possible. And I call these in this goal workbook, minimum viable routines. Minimum, as absolutely minimum as you can possibly make it while still being viable and it's still meeting your needs and it's still working. So the first step in this task management flowchart is there is a trigger. Something is brought to your attention, something is brought on your plate. So there's a trigger where something is brought to your attention. Now in the next video where I talk about time management, I'm going to talk about things that are not brought to your attention, because a lot of the most important things in your life, like for example, that guy doing a cross-country biking trip across the US, no one brought that to his attention and told him to do that. It may have been a thought, and that was the trigger. But a lot of times with the most important things in life, there's not someone telling you that you have to do it. It takes some sort of being kind of like the CEO of your own life. So that's what we're getting into in the next video, stuff like that. This is predominantly for chores. This could be something as simple as the garbage smells. Okay, that triggers, okay, I want to take the trash out. That's a trigger. So then the question becomes, once you experience that trigger, someone brings something to your attention, the question is that something that we're gonna do now, or are you gonna do it later? If you're gonna do it now, like you gotta take the trash out, no further work needed. So the other option is you're gonna do it later. So for example, maybe you're in your car, you see that the oil is gonna need change soon, you can't do it right now, but you decide that you're gonna do it later. If you do it now, that's just, we're done. We're done with the flow chart over here. But if you're gonna do it later, then the question is, are you in a rush right now, or do you have a moment to think things through right now? If you are in a rush, so for example, you're in the car, you realize the oil needs changed, maybe you're in the coffee drive-thru. If I was just sitting there in the coffee drive-thru, what I would do personally, if I was in a rush, I would pull out my notes app or whichever place that you want to be your capture location. Now it's best to only have one of these. I like a notes app. But the thing about a capture location is you need to clean it out as soon as possible. So what I would do is if I was in the drive-thru right then, I'd pull out my notes app, type in, I need to get the oil changed in my car. It's absolutely as soon as possible. You need to bridge the gap between these two things. As soon as I can think things through, then I need to actually do that. And so the idea is not to have an overflowing notes app. The idea is to have like a notes app 0. You only use it for when you're in a rush, and then you transfer it. If you can think things through, let's say you're at home and your spouse says, hey, you need to get the oil changed, and you've experienced the trigger that way, and you have time to kind of think things through, I would skip the whole notes app section and go straight to deciding when am I going to do it. And I want to clarify that this is a due, D-O, a due date, not a due date. So D-O, not D-U-E. A lot of times people, if they get like an essay, for example, the essay's due on Friday, they will write it on their calendar when it's due, but that is not helpful to us. We don't want to put the noun, the due date on the calendar. We want to put the verbs. When am I actually going to do it? So if you had an essay and you wanted to chunk it up in 5 different sessions, let's say, then I would put on the calendar, when am I going to do each session? Now, the way that I would treat this, since I'm a physical planner person, I'll tell you a digital version as well, but I write it, if I think of something, I need to get the oil changed, and I would think, when is the most specific I know that I want to do it? So if I know I want to do it a couple weeks from now on Friday, I would just put it on the monthly spread on Friday. If there's something where I know the month I want to do it, but I don't know the actual week, like, you know, several months ago I was thinking, you know what, when it's warm outside, I want to go paddleboarding. So I flipped into the monthly spread, found the month that paddleboarding would be good, and I wrote it down. so that it's a trigger when I get there. And I treat the monthly spread like a monthly messy dashboard. And I detail that in the beginning of this planner about how to actually use it. But I treat this like a monthly messy dashboard. And then when I actually get to weekly planning, I take those things that were on the monthly messy rough draft, and if it's still relevant, then I transfer it to the weekly spread. And I like it because you need one area for a brain dump. Get it out of your mind. You need it to be messy. And then you have one area of the planner, the weekly spread, where it's nice and clean, it's organized, and you're able to streamline everything. So if you wanted to implement this digitally, what I would do, like if I was using Google Calendar, for example, is I would make 2 calendars. One of them I would call the messy dashboard. So this is anytime I think of anything I could possibly ever want to do, you know, if I want to go to a drive-in movie next summer, if I want to go skiing next winter, literally anything I could want to do, I put it as specific as I know. If I only know the month, I put it at the beginning of the month. And that is a messy calendar for the purpose of clearing out my mind. Then I would create a second Google Calendar, which is the more streamlined version. So every Sunday evening or so, I would check what's on the messy dashboard calendar, and of that stuff, what is still relevant that I still want to do, and then I'll put that on the actual streamlined calendar. You could call it something, I don't know, like the actual calendar, the streamlined calendar, whatever you want to call it. And I would make a commitment to myself that whatever is on that streamlined calendar will get done. Everything on the messy dashboard, that stuff you could put on repeat. Okay, workout every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I do this. You put things on repeat. It'll just get full. A lot of times with digital calendars, when you put things on repeat, you stop seeing it after a while. It gets really full, and that's fine for the messy dashboard. But what I would do is on the actual streamlined calendar, I wouldn't put anything on repeat. It'll be a little less efficient, but it'll be more effective because you need to make the conscious choice of what is getting transferred from the messy calendar to the streamlined calendar. And sometimes when things are just on repeat, you're not making the conscious choice to do it anymore, and then you stop doing the things that you thought you were gonna do. So every Sunday evening, I would just make the conscious choice. It says on repeat, I work out Monday, Wednesdays, Friday. Do I wanna do that this week? Yes or no? Let's reevaluate that. And if I do want to do it, I'm putting it on the calendar. I'm seeing it metaphorically in Sharpie, and I'm going to do that thing. The messy dashboard, that's like written in pencil. It's like it can be erased, it can be moved around, it can be scratched out. That's just stuff I thought of. But if it's on the streamlined calendar, it's written in Sharpie, and I'm going to do it. That might be a good name for the calendars. You've got your pencil calendar and you've got your Sharpie calendar. Pencil calendar, you put everything on, may or may not happen. The Sharpie calendar, you are very selective and very precise with the things that you do, and when it gets put on that calendar, you will do it. You make the commitment to yourself, you will do it. Now, this is part of my system, and I put it on the calendar. And the reason I put it on the calendar is because I will reliably check it without fail. This place that you put it, it needs to be assigned to time. You need to pick when you need to do it, because a lot of times people just say, oh, I'll do it, then they don't realize they've double booked things, they don't realize they don't have enough time, people in their mind are not quite seeing all the variables. It needs to be somewhere you will reliably check without fail, or your mind will not relax. And going back to what I said at the beginning, the whole point of this whole thing is to minimize things that don't matter, like in the long scheme of things, you know, oil changes, little stuff that doesn't matter, so that you can maximize things that you want to do. If you want to write the book, if you want to make the album, you want to do a cross-country trip, biking across the US, we want to be able to really maximize those things. Muffin is back there. So to get started using this system, you need a few things. One, you need a capture location. I like a notes app or just anything that you can use for when you're in a rush. The next thing that is sometimes relevant and sometimes isn't relevant is when you're thinking it through and you're thinking through all the verbs that are going to be comprised in this thing. Sometimes when I'm planning something like really elaborate, like if I'm planning like a murder mystery party, for example, and I'm planning it for months and there are hundreds of do items that I need to do, I like to just open up a notebook. You could use like a napkin, literally anything, any sort of brain dump location, and just chunk out what are all these do's. And then it doesn't need to be an important location. I use any old notebook, any old napkin that can be thrown away, because once it gets transferred then to the third thing that you need, which is a calendar, then you won't need all of those things. If you're interested, I do have a video called the START system, which is the best practices. It goes a little bit more into task management, the best ways to add something to the calendar, how to know if you've chunked it down to the do level as much as you need to, get it as granular as you need to. I do have chat sessions, which you can book. I will have those linked in the description, as well as the potential planner, the potential journal. So check out the START system video if you have not seen it already in my other videos on systems. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.